Top five, top five, top five.
Since I'll go back with another video, I'm Strange Wang. He is Nate today. In honor of whatever movie's coming out this week, we're doing top 5 film openings because that film, just like all films, has an opening scene. So we're going to see what our favorite opening scenes are. I'll tell you how top 5s work, and then we'll get into it.
He's going to give his 5 and 4. I'll give my 5 and 4. 3-2, 3-2. Then we trade off number ones. We also have something called the Zemeckis rule, which just means that we both have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots are higher, then we just talk about it once.
Number 5 for me is going to be Once Upon a Time in the West. Just nothing happening. These 3 fucking Goonies, they're waiting at this train station, doing nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
It's boring. One guy, he's like trying to catch a fly in a gun. Other guy, he's getting water in his cowboy hat and drinking it because he's thirsty. The other guy, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's fucking thinking about sucking toes or something.
Ew.
Then the train comes. They all get up. They waiting to smoke a motherfucker. Train goes. You hear nothing. They go, turn around, and they hear that fucking harmonica play. That fucking classic Western music. Fucking Henry Fonda is just blowing away. And he hits some motherfuckers with a cold line. Because he's like, that's his old crew. And they got sent there to kill him. Turned the back on him. He's like, you got a horse for me? They start laughing at him. Nah, we don't got one for you. He's like, looks like you got too many. One of the best shootouts ever. Just because it's tense. The cinematography of knowing where to put the camera at. So you don't know if their hands are on their guns or not. Just a masterful scene. And you watch that, you're hooked. And for a great opening scene, that's what you want. I love Westerns. I almost went with the shootout at the... Well, I couldn't have, because Good, Not Bad, Ugly, that's like at the end of the movie. But another amazing shootout. So that's my number 5. Number 4 for me is going to be Goodfellas. Just the placement of the people. It hooks you. And the great line. The music and everything. Just fucking incredible. Martin Scorsese. He puts Bob De Niro in the passenger seat. Why? Because he's the head guy. You know, like, that shows his level status. That shows that homie, he's fully Italian, Joe Pesci. He can't be driving doing work. He's fully Italian, so we'll let him sleep in the back seat so he don't bother nobody. He's a little reckless. We don't want him driving anyways. You, Henry, you gotta drive. Stay awake. Fuck you. So you get the placement, so you kind of know where these people stand at on the rewatch. And then you hear something in the trunk. You don't know what's in the trunk. Question. You're hooked.
What else would be in the trunk?
Well, you don't fucking know.
It's a movie about gangsters.
You don't know that because it's the opening scene, cocksucker.
I knew that.
So you get, well, who's in the trunk? You don't know who's in the trunk.
Okay, that's a better question.
Gotcha, bitch.
And then you don't know why they're killing him, why he's in the trunk. And then you kind of get like Henry, he's not fully in this life because he's like Joe Pesci, he's just stabbing the fuck out of the guy. The Nero, he's like, another day for him, he's just shooting the dude. And Henry's just like, closes the trunk. All my life I want to be a gangster. Phenomenal line of dialogue. The music plays. You're in the fucking movie. You're hooked. So, getting hooked from the opening scene is so damn important. I think those 2 are 2 of the best to ever do it. And they're also 2 of my favorite. So, had to throw them on there.
Nice. Number 5 for me is the opening scene of Vertigo. For 2 reasons. And one is one that I never really thought about until I made this list. But one, it explains why he has vertigo. But the other one is like, throughout the course of Vertigo, it's like, not necessarily slow pace, but there's not a lot of action in Vertigo. He's being a PI. He's being sneaky. He's following someone around. And it's really easy to forget the fact that this dude was a badass motherfucker. He's on fucking rooftops chasing people down. And fuck that.
That's a fact.
I really appreciate Vertigo's opening scene because of that, because it's like, it's really easy to forget that he was hard fucking core. He was high speed, and now he's doing this shit. But it also does a really good job of explaining why he has vertigo, because why the fuck wouldn't you be afraid of heights after you had to hang on from a gutter?
And you saw someone die.
And you saw someone die. And it also gives you that suspense, because it doesn't tell you, like, did he fall? If he fell, it's a long fucking way to fall. Did he magically survive? Like, did the cop pull him up? Like, what happened? Because it just cuts away. You don't know. And so it leaves a little bit of mystery, because we don't really know how he got down from the roof. And I dig it. Number 4 for me, this has a lot to do with when it came out and what age I was and where I was in my, like, relationship to film. And it is also just a really great opening scene. But I went with the bank heist from The Dark Knight. The opening scene of The Dark Knight, it just does such a good job of setting the tone for that movie. And just like, we're in Gotham. People are robbing a bank. We all saw the trailers. We all heard the hype about Heath Ledger as Joker. We'd seen him in the makeup already. And so to have your opening scene of the movie where you don't get that, and you don't necessarily know that he's there yet or not, like, this could just be a setup for, like, look, Batman's great. He catches some bank robbers. And then to find out that all of this was just like this big elaborate setup by the Joker, when he pulls that mask off, motherfuckers of the crew start getting picked off one by one. You get the great bit with the bank manager and hit shotgun, and the whole little, how many shots did he shoot? Did you count? And then him just like nodding that he's out, and then the guy stands up and gets smoked. And even all the way down to like sticking the gas canister in his mouth. The school bus stuff, like, it is just like one of the best bank heist scenes in movies, and it's very good, because you could put that in another movie and like not have the Joker in it, and it not be a Batman movie, and it's like still an excellent scene. And then you throw in the reveal and the little bit of dialogue you get from the Joker in it and all that, and it just makes it even better. So
It's really a short film.
yeah.
Number 3, you can say the same about my number 3. My number 3 is the greatest short film of all time. It's also one of the greatest opening scenes of all time, and it's Jaws. The whole running to the beach, and then the shark's POV of coming up and down, and her legs just, like, the tension. You know it's a shark, you don't know how big the shark is. The guy on the beach, he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. You're kind of giggling at him first. And she's, like, about to be fucking eaten by a shark. The whole dipping in and out is just some of the greatest filmmaking of all time. Spielberg, I think it's hard to dispute that he's not the greatest director ever.
Yeah.
And again, makes these opening shots so important. These opening scenes so important. They hook you from the front, and it sets the tone of the movie, the storytelling of the movie, that, hey, this shark does not want to be seen. It will kill, and you still won't see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And he lets that element of danger, that tension, the thrill in there for you to have for the rest of the film, and you do. But just the dipping, everything's iconic, is incredible.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest filmmaking of all time.
It's pretty good.
I feel like my number 2 will be your number 1.
Okay.
And 1, 2, and 3, I can honestly, like, if we were doing a non-biased list, 1, 2, and 3 staying the same.
Mm.
Number 2 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. From the opening until Indy gets on that plane, is some of the greatest cinema of all fucking time.
Clearly, no debating.
Just the greatest character introduction of all time is in this scene. And then you have the element of thrills with the whole walking through the cave jungle thing, whatever it is, to get the
After
idol.
Melina's just hanging out.
Yeah. You get Indy in a nutshell. Cares about his hat. He has his whip. He has this terrible, like, trust in people, but he always comes out on top by the skin of his teeth. He's cool. He's calculating at the same time, though. But just things just don't work out with him, which goes into the tone. But when you hit that, the music, perfect music, and then he takes it off, and then the whole thing starts going down, he turns and looks like the boulder scene. It's just one iconic.
You can't forget the half smile, though.
Yeah,
when he switches it out, and he's like, it worked.
Yeah.
And then it just...
There's 5 or 6 iconic moments that's been ripped off through television, other movies, over and over and over again, back to back to back to back, in the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's so fucking good.
It is very good.
It's great.
My number 3 is a Spielberg movie, just like yours was, but it's Jurassic Park, because that opening scene, the whole point of Jurassic Park is this shit was a bad idea.
Also very similar, because you don't see what's killing these people.
Right. And so he takes what he learned works from Jaws, and he does the same thing. Like, it's a dinosaur. Jaws is a shark. But like you said, you don't know how big it is. Like, in this case, you don't know what kind of dinosaur it is. They're just trying to unload this big crate, and this dinosaur finds a way to do it. And not only does the dinosaur find a way to do it, through all of the freaking cow prods and like everything they're poking in there to try to stop this, it doesn't care. And like, just freaking homeboy sitting there screaming, "Shoot her!" as the guy's hand is just like slowly sliding through his grip. It's freaking terrifying, and it is like masterclass in filmmaking, because you don't see it, but the imminent danger is like undeniable, and it's there. Somebody died, not again like Jaws, by this unseen force that man had no control over. And Jaws and Jurassic Park have a lot in common because of that theme of like man versus nature. And I really appreciate that. But Jurassic Park means a little bit more to me than the opening scene of Jaws does. To me, if I had Jaws on the list, this is where it would have been. But that opening scene of Jurassic Park, to me, is just a little bit cooler. So I picked it.
3 Spielbergs.
And then
it's gonna be 4.
Number 2 for me is it's a cheat, but it's not a cheat, because it's not necessarily an opening scene, but it is an opening, and it's Star Wars, baby. Just hit me with that music. Give me this scroll of these words explaining this intricate space politics, which I find to be incredibly interesting. It's so funny. I really, truly detest real world politics. Like, I hate it. I can't stand it. I love some like complicated, made up fucking politics in movies, video games, TV shows. That stuff's so interesting to me. Like, I wish Kevin Spacey wasn't such a shithead, because I really did love House of Cards. Like, but Star Wars, between the music, and even if you go to the like actual opening scene of Star Wars with the Death Star facing down, or chasing down, or not the Death Star, but the Star Destroyer chasing down the transport and all of that stuff, like Darth Vader's introduction, Leia slipping the disc to R2-D2. It's kind of like you talked about. It gives you so many questions. Who is this motherfucker in the big black suit? Like, why are the stormtroopers' uniforms so white? Who is she? What did she slip in the droid? Why are they stupid enough to say, "Oh, there's no life forms on that pod, let's not shoot it"? Which is a terrible decision, but that's also realistic. Like, people make really dumb decisions that are in power every single day. So, this is Star Wars. I love it.
You said, was she slipping that droid? Bill Cosby woke up out of his slumber.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah. It's nostalgic. It's interesting. It helps build what's to come. It's great.
My number 1 is not only the one I think is the greatest of all time, it's also my favorite, just because watching it and me watching it now, it's just drooling over this scene, is like, I love it. And it's opening the Rear Window. just the pan out the window. It puts you in his shoes because that's all he has to do. Is LB Jeffries. He just has to look out this damn window and watch his neighbors, and you get such little nuances and details about these neighbors' lives with a pan of a camera like that.
Yeah.
So masterfully done, so well thought out. And then you get into his apartment because that's where he is. You see his leg. James Stewart, you know his personality. Bored, he would write, "Here lies L.B. Jeffrey," or whatever he writes on the cast. How did he break his leg? Let's pan some more. Broken camera. Oh, well, there's a lot of cameras. He must be a photographer. Broken camera. Car accident. He must have got hurt taking a photo. Everything you need to know is right there. It makes you think, use your brain, ask questions with just a pan of the camera. Just the artistry, the composition of how everything's laid out. It's just the greatest filmmaking on earth.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
The only thing better to me than learning that Indiana Jones loves his hat, learning that Indiana Jones loves his whip, is seeing how Indiana Jones got his hat. How Indiana Jones learned to love a whip. How did he get that scar on his chin? You know how you can find out? By watching the opening scene of The Last Crusade, which is my personal number one. And it's not just the River Phoenix stuff, although I do love that a lot, but Indiana Jones, maybe my favorite movie character of all time. And I already learned so many things I loved about Indy from Raiders and Temple of Doom. And then to see this glimpse into his childhood, like, it sets up stuff with his dad, but not only does it set up the stuff that's about to come later in the movie with his dad, it also just, like, explains Indy so much. Like, watching the opening scene of Last Crusade and then watching Raiders and Temple of Doom is like, you understand Indy more because you got that little glimpse of his childhood, right? And I think that's really important to me. But what really does it for me is that just, like, absolutely perfect transition from when the guy gives the kid the hat at the end and he dips it down, and then we come back up and now we're with our Indy that we know, and then the music cues right in that moment. He's got that little smile on his face because it's like all of that was almost like this flash of a memory in his head while he's trying to reclaim that same artifact.
Why?
What do you mean why?
What's he trying to reclaim the artifact?
Because he lost it.
Oh my god. I gave you a softball. Because it belongs in a museum, god damn it.
Yeah.
You blew it!
And yeah, you get what is basically should be Indiana Jones's tagline. It belongs in a museum. And so yeah, it's like, it's fun, it's adventurous, it sets up my favorite movie character all time. It sets up the tone of that movie perfectly because the depth of that movie comes with him reconciling his relationship with his dad while also reclaiming lost artifacts from Nazis. And you just like, it's like that guy, even though he was that bad guy in that moment of Indiana Jones's story, like he still was like, I could do what that guy does for a living. Like, I don't have to be like my dad and just have my nose in a book my entire life. I can spend 30% of my time with my nose in a book so I can learn all this stuff, and then I can go out and actually get it and touch it. And I think that's really cool. Also, I just learned this the other day, fun fact, because I was thinking about how you got on me for calling Rocky a creep for not letting Marion leave his apartment, but then you brought up the age gap between Indiana Jones and Marion. Yeah. They cut it from the movie, but the guy that gives Indy his hat in Spielberg's headcanon of Indiana Jones movies is Marion's dad.
I don't like that.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either.
Too cheesy. That shit's
It's
corny.
it's like too intertwined.
Yeah.
It's like the problem with the Star Wars sequels. You didn't have to intertwine everybody. Like
Yeah.
some stuff can just be its own thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it got cut, but it's still just like an
Me too.
interesting little bit of
That's an idea.
yeah.
Fun fact though, the original tagline for Indy 5 was "He belongs in a museum."
Yeah.
But that is our top 5 favorite opening scenes in all of cinema. Honestly, that's a knockout list. We didn't have any in common.
Yeah.
But if you smashed them together and made that a top 10 and put it on Watch Mojo or something,
Right.
hard to debate.
Yeah. Well, Watch Mojo actually does have a top 20 best movie openings of all time, and we might have maybe only 5 of our movies were on their list.
Bullshit.
They didn't have Vertigo, didn't have Rear Window.
What?
Maybe I'm wrong. Goodfellas was on there.
Fuck Watch Mojo.
Star Wars was not. I think they had Raiders, not Last Crusade. Goodfellas was on there. I can't remember if Jurassic Park was on there or if it was in the honorable mentions, but
I feel like if they had Jaws on there, they probably cut.
Jaws was on there.
Uh,
The one that
Jurassic Park.
the one that they left out that all the fanboys were like raging about in the comments was Saving Private Ryan.
that was good
Yeah.
until it cuts to the old man in the field, and I'm not a big patriot, so that was corny to me. But who am I? I'm Strange Wang, and you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a button down there for it, and you should like the video and share it to all your friends, even your grandma.
It's not a game.